Vegeta didn't kill Nappa because he lost to Goku. Vegeta loses all the time. He killed Nappa because Nappa lacked dignity. Watching Nappa fight was like watching a drunk man try to defuse a bomb. It was loud, sloppy, and embarrassing. The prince didn't execute him for failure. He executed him for being pathetic. There is a specific kind of silence that falls over a battlefield when a hierarchy is shattered. It is not the silence of peace, but the silence of a predator realizing that its pack mate has become a liability. When Nappa landed on Earth, he was a titan. He was a mountain of muscle and aggression that leveled cities with the flick of a wrist. He was the general of the Saiyan army. He was a veteran of 1,000 purges. He treated the Z fighters like toys. He ripped off Tine's arm. He survived the suicide attack of Chiaotzu. He tanked the desperate rage of Piccolo. For a few hours, Nappa was the scariest thing in the universe. He was the unstoppable force. But then Goku arrived and the mountain crumbled. It didn't crumble because Goku was infinitely stronger. It crumbled because Nappa was mentally weak. The moment he was challenged, he panicked. The moment he was hurt, he threw a tantrum. Vegeta watched all of this from the sidelines with his arms crossed and his scouter silent. He watched his subordinate lose his composure. He watched him flail. He watched him sweat. To Vegeta, this was not just a lost fight, it was a public humiliation. It was a stain on the Royal Crest. To understand why Vegeta threw Nappa into the air and vaporized him, we have to understand the toxic relationship between the two of them. Nappa was not just a soldier. He was Vegeta's handler. He had been with Vegeta since the prince was a child. We see flashbacks where a young Vegeta is sitting on a pile of corpses, and Nappa is standing behind him. Nappa was the closest thing Vegeta had to a father figure after King Vegeta died. He was the one who raised him in the cold metal corridors of Frieza's ship. He was the one who watched his back on countless alien worlds. In any other story, this would be a bond of brotherhood. They were the last two survivors of a genocide. They should have been inseparable. They should have protected each other until the bitter end. But Saiyans do not operate on human sentimentality. Saiyans operate on strength. Vegeta did not look at Nappa and see a friend. He looked at Nappa and saw a relic. He saw a reminder of the old ways that had failed. Nappa represented the brute force of the past. He was a blunt instrument in a universe that required surgical precision. Vegeta had evolved. Nappa had stagnated. When Nappa fights Goku, we see the difference in their philosophies. Nappa believes that power is everything. He believes that if he screams loud enough and hits hard enough, he will win. He charges at Goku like a raging bull, but Goku is calm. Goku uses technique. Goku uses the Kaioken. He dodges Nappa's clumsy strikes and counters with precision. Vegeta is watching this and he is analyzing the data. He realizes that Nappa has no martial arts skill. Nappa has no strategy. He is just a brawler who has relied on his high power level to bully weaklings for 50 years. The moment he faced someone with actual skill, he fell apart. This disgusted Vegeta. The prince prides himself on being a prodigy. He prides himself on being the elite of the elite. Seeing a fellow elite Saiyan fight like a desperate amateur was an insult to his pride. It made the Saiyans look stupid. It made them look like savages who couldn't adapt. Vegeta hates being looked down upon. He hates it when Frieza does it, and he hates it when Earthlings do it. By losing his cool, Nappa was proving the Earthlings right. He was proving that Saiyans were just mindless monsters. The breaking point was not the defeat itself. It was the moment Nappa lost his mind. Goku used the Kaioken to cripple him. He broke Nappa's back. The giant crashed into the dirt. He couldn't move. He was paralyzed. At this moment, Nappa ceased to be a warrior and became a victim. He looked up at Vegeta. His eyes were wide with pain and fear. He stretched out a hand. He begged. He asked for help. This is the moment Nappa signed his death warrant. In the twisted code of the Saiyan warrior, begging for mercy is a sin worse than death. It is an admission of total submission. It is the act of a slave. Vegeta looked at that outstretched hand and he felt nothing but revulsion. A true Saiyan would have died cursing his enemy. A true Saiyan would have spit in Goku's face. Nappa begged like a dog. He wanted Vegeta to save him. He wanted pity. Vegeta does not do pity. Pity is for the weak. Pity is an earthling emotion. In Vegeta's mind, Nappa had already died the moment his spine snapped. The thing writhing on the ground was just meat that hadn't realized it was expired yet. There is a terrifying intimacy in the way Vegeta kills him. He doesn't just blast him from a distance immediately. He takes Nappa's hand, he grips it. For a split second, Nappa thinks he is safe. He thinks his prince is going to pull him up. He smiles, he says thank you. The betrayal that follows is one of the coldest moments in anime history. Vegeta smiles back. It is a smile that doesn't reach his eyes. It is the smile of a shark that has found blood in the water. He throws Nappa into the air. He tosses him like a bag of trash. Nappa is helpless. He is floating in the sky, unable to dodge and unable to block. He looks down and realizes too late what is happening. He screams Vegeta's name. He screams in betrayal. Vegeta doesn't hesitate. He doesn't flinch. He charges his energy and shouts that he has no use for a Saiyan who can't move. The blast connects. Nappa vanishes. There is no body left to bury. There is no ash. There is just empty air and the lingering echo of an explosion. Vegeta stands there and laughs. He laughs not because it was funny, but because he is finally free. He has cut off the dead weight. This act was a tactical calculation just as much as it was an emotional purge. Vegeta is smart. He knew the situation. They were on a hostile planet. Their scouters were destroyed or useless. Frieza was likely listening in or would find out eventually. If Vegeta had saved Nappa, what would have happened? He would have had to carry a paralyzed giant back to his pod. He would have had to drag him through a battlefield. Nappa would have been a liability in the fight against Goku. Vegeta knew he was about to face Kakarot one-on-one. He couldn't afford distractions. He couldn't afford to worry about protecting a cripple. Furthermore, if they had managed to escape Earth and return to Frieza Planet 79, what would have happened to Nappa? Frieza does not tolerate failure. Frieza would have killed Nappa anyway. Or worse, Frieza would have used Nappa's failure to mock Vegeta even more. He would have held it over his head. By killing Nappa himself, Vegeta took control of the narrative. He denied Frieza the pleasure of executing his subordinate. He cleaned his own house. It was a preemptive strike to preserve what little dignity the Saiyan race had left. We also have to consider the embarrassment factor regarding the Super Saiyan legend. Vegeta spent his entire life believing he was the legendary Super Saiyan. He believed he was the chosen one. He looked at Nappa and saw mediocrity. He looked at Raditz and saw weakness. He believed he was the only one who mattered. But then he sees Goku. He sees a low-class warrior surpassing the elite. This shakes Vegeta's worldview to its core. He projects his insecurity onto Nappa. He kills Nappa because he cannot kill Goku yet. He takes out his frustration on the easiest target. Nappa becomes the scapegoat for the failure of the Saiyan race. Vegeta is essentially saying that the reason they are losing is not because he is weak, but because his subordinates are incompetent. It is classic narcissistic behavior. He purges the weak link to convince himself that the chain is still strong. If he kills Nappa, he remains the sole representative of Saiyan power. He doesn't have to share the spotlight with a failure. The sheer brutality of the attack is also a message to Goku. Vegeta wanted to terrify Kakarot. He wanted to show this soft-hearted earthling what a real killer looks like. Goku had just spared Nappa. Goku had shown mercy. He broke Nappa's back, but he didn't finish the job. He told Nappa to leave. This act of mercy offended Vegeta more than the violence. To Vegeta, mercy is an insult. It implies that the enemy is not worth killing. By vaporizing Nappa, Vegeta was rejecting Goku's morality. He was spitting on Goku's mercy. He was saying that on the battlefield there are no second chances. There is only victory or death. He turned his own ally into a firework display to prove a point. He wanted Goku to know that he was fighting a monster. He wanted to shake Goku's resolve, and it worked. We see the look of horror on Goku's face. He cannot comprehend how someone could kill their own comrade so easily. This psychological warfare was Vegeta's opening move. He established dominance before a single punch was thrown between them. There is a tragic irony in Nappa's loyalty. Nappa actually suggested that they breed with the Earthlings to rebuild the Saiyan Empire. He was thinking about the future. He was thinking about the survival of their species. Vegeta shot that idea down immediately because he didn't want half-breeds to surpass him. Nappa cared about the race. Vegeta only cared about himself. When Nappa died, the institutional memory of the Saiyan army died with him. Nappa knew the old customs. He knew the stories of King Vegeta. He knew the military protocols. Vegeta didn't care about any of that. He was willing to let his culture go extinct if it meant he could maintain his ego. The death of Nappa was the final nail in the coffin of Planet Vegeta. It was the moment the Saiyans truly died. All that was left was a prince of nothing and a low-class traitor who had forgotten his heritage. Vegeta stood over the scorch mark where Nappa used to be, and he didn't feel loss. He felt lighter. He felt unburdened. But deep down, beneath the layers of pride and cruelty, there might have been a flicker of mercy in the kill. Consider the alternative for Nappa. If he had lived, he would have been a cripple. He would have been useless in a society that values strength above all else. He would have been an object of pity and ridicule. Frieza's soldiers would have mocked him. He would have spent the rest of his life in a healing tank or begging on the streets of some backwater planet. For a proud Saiyan warrior, that existence is hell. By killing him instantly, Vegeta spared him that humiliation. He gave him a warrior's death. He died by the hand of his prince. He died in a flash of light. In a twisted way, it was an act of compassion. Vegeta saved him from a life of irrelevance. He put the old dog down because the old dog could no longer hunt. It is a dark interpretation, but it fits Vegeta's character. He would rather die than be weak. He assumed Nappa felt the same way. He projected his own values onto his subordinate and pulled the trigger. The legacy of this moment follows Vegeta for the rest of the series. It establishes him as a ruthless pragmatist. It sets the stakes for the Namek saga. When we see him on Namek, he is alone. He has no backup. He has no one to watch his back. He is fighting a guerrilla war against the entire Frieza force. This isolation is a direct result of his actions on Earth. He killed his only ally. He chose solitude. This makes his struggle on Namek even more impressive. He is a one-man army. He relies solely on his own wits and his own power. He doesn't need a Nappa. He doesn't need a Raditz. He is the super elite. But it also highlights his tragedy. He is lonely. He has no one to talk to, no one to share his plans with. The silence that follows him is the silence he created. He is the king of a graveyard. When we look back at the design of Nappa, we see that he was designed to die. He was too big, too simple. He was a relic of the barbarian age of Dragon Ball. Vegeta was the future. Vegeta was sleek, fast, complex. The death of Nappa was a narrative necessity to transition the series from martial arts fantasy to sci-fi horror. Nappa was a wrestling heel. Vegeta was a sci-fi villain. The moment Vegeta killed Nappa, the tone of the show shifted. It became darker. The stakes became real. It wasn't just a tournament anymore, it was a war of extermination. Vegeta signaled that the rules had changed. Friendship didn't matter, loyalty didn't matter, only power mattered. Nappa's ghost hangs over the Saiyan saga. Every time Vegeta talks about Saiyan pride, we have to remember that he murdered the most loyal Saiyan he knew. His pride is a lie. It is a construct he built to protect his fragile ego. He claims to fight for the glory of the Saiyans, but he is the one who finished Frieza's job. Frieza blew up the planet, but Vegeta wiped out the survivors. He killed Nappa. He let Raditz die. He tried to kill Goku. Vegeta is the greatest threat to the Saiyan race in history. He did more damage to his own people in one afternoon than the Ginyu Force did in their entire careers. This hypocrisy is what makes him such a compelling character. He is a walking contradiction. He demands respect for a heritage he actively destroyed. He wears the armor of the army he betrayed. He is a prince without a kingdom and a commander without soldiers because he killed them all. The visual of the Galaxy Breaker technique is important. It is white lightning. It is pure energy. It surrounds Nappa and obliterates him. It is clean. It is sterile. Unlike Nappa, who smashed things and caused messy destruction, Vegeta's kill was precise. It was an erasure. He didn't just kill Nappa, he deleted him. It was as if he was trying to scrub the embarrassment from reality itself. He wanted to forget that he was ever associated with such incompetence. He wanted to purify the Saiyan image. By reducing Nappa to atoms, he ensured that no one would ever see the general crawling in the dirt again. He preserved the image of the Saiyan by destroying the Saiyan. It is a paradox that defines Vegeta's entire existence. If Nappa had been stronger, if Nappa had been smarter, if he had kept his cool and fought tactically, Vegeta might have let him live. If Nappa had retreated with dignity, Vegeta might have spared him. But Nappa chose to be pathetic. He chose to beg. He chose to rely on others. That was his sin. In the world of Dragon Ball, strength is virtue and weakness is a moral failing. Nappa failed the moral test. He showed fear, and in the eyes of the prince, fear is a disease. You have to cut out the infection before it spreads. Vegeta was the surgeon and his key blast was the scalpel. He cut out the cancer of weakness to save the body of his pride. Ultimately, Vegeta killed Nappa because Nappa reminded him of what he truly was. Nappa was a servant. Nappa was a soldier following orders. Vegeta spent his whole life following Frieza's orders. He was a slave just like Nappa. Seeing Nappa beg on the ground was like looking in a mirror. It was a reflection of his own servitude. It was a reflection of his own fear of Frieza. He hated that reflection. He wanted to smash the mirror. By killing Nappa, he was symbolically killing the part of himself that was a servant. He was declaring his independence. He was saying that he would never beg, he would never ask for help. He would stand alone or he would die. Nappa had to die so that Vegeta could be born. The servant had to be sacrificed to create the king. It was a blood ritual performed on the soil of Earth. And as the dust settled and the lightning faded, Vegeta stood alone. He was no longer a commander. He was a lone wolf and he was ready to hunt. The tragedy of Nappa is that he died confused. He never understood why his prince betrayed him. He died thinking the world had gone mad, but the world hadn't gone mad. The world had just moved on. Nappa was a dinosaur staring at the meteor. He was extinct before the blast even hit him. Vegeta was simply the gravity that pulled the meteor down. He did what nature intended. He removed the obsolete to make way for the evolved. It wasn't personal, it was just business. The business of being the strongest. And in that business, there is no room for dead weight. There is no room for sentiment. There is only the climb. And Vegeta was willing to step on anyone, even his oldest friend, to reach the top. That is why he is the prince. And that is why Nappa is just a footnote in the history of violence. This moment creates a precedent for the audience. We learn that characters in this show can die suddenly and pointlessly. We learn that villains are not a monolith. They have internal conflicts. They hate each other. This complexity elevates the story. It makes the threat of Vegeta real. If he would kill his best friend, what would he do to Krillin? What would he do to Gohan? It raises the tension to a breaking point. It establishes Vegeta as a wild card. He is not lawful evil. He is chaotic evil. He is unpredictable. A villain who kills his own henchmen is terrifying because he has no loyalty. He cannot be reasoned with. He cannot be bargained with. He is a force of pure ego. Nappa was the sacrifice that established Vegeta's legend. He was the fuel for the prince's fire, and he burned brightly for one brief second before vanishing into the dark. In the end, the death of Nappa is a study in embarrassment. It is the story of a man who tried to be something he wasn't and got punished for it. Nappa tried to be a conqueror, but he was just a thug. He tried to be an elite, but he was just a brute. Vegeta saw through the facade. He saw the fear behind the sunglasses. He saw the trembling behind the muscles. And he decided that he didn't want to look at it anymore. He closed the curtain on the Nappa show, and he didn't even wait for the applause. He just turned around and prepared for the main event. Because for Vegeta, Nappa was never the main event. He was just the warm-up act, and the warm-up act had gone on for far too long. It was time for the star to take the stage. It was time for the prince to show the universe what a real Saiyan looked like. And a real Saiyan stands alone.